This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of make it happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to Movers and Shakers. My name is Josh Roosen, co-host of Movers and Shakers, here with my other host, Gino Barbaro. Gino, welcome to the show.
Wow, I'm being welcomed to the show, Josh. How you doing?
Doing well. So, all right, little secret for the guests today. Guys, we're going to be interviewing Gino, and this is one that I'm very excited about. I know Gino well, honestly consider him like family. However, there's still some things I don't know about him. So what we're going to do is get this interview, get into the weeds, and find out how the G Daddy became the G Daddy.
Josh, I think I was always the G Daddy, but it just came out and Josh and Jake just stamped that name on my forehead forever. So now I'm forever known as the G Daddy, right?
Love it. Love it. All right. So let's dig into your early life. Bring me up kind of childhood, how that went. You were born in New York, raised there. Give me the details on all of that.
So Josh, for me, this could be like a 2-hour answer, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible. But it's important to know my background, how I ticked, my limiting beliefs, what I wanted out of life. I was fortunate. I had 2 great parents. I have a great brother. I was born in New York to an entrepreneurial family. You know what entrepreneurial was 40, 50 years ago. You know, the middle class, where my parents were immigrants. They came from Italy. They both couldn't speak the language. They both worked really hard. They both saved their money, and they ultimately opened a restaurant. And when I was 8 years old, I used to go into work with my dad at the restaurant, and I would think, you know, all kids go to work with their dads at restaurants. Pretty cool, right? You know, so I'd go in there, and I remember at 8 years old, Windexing the walls. I remember actually using a knife, working in the kitchen with him, cleaning chickens. I remember sweeping the floors, all the hard work. And my dad would always tell me, you know, you have to set the example. If you're going to work hard, you have to show others you're working hard, and you have to work hard yourself. And that carried on throughout my childhood and my adulthood. And, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old, you know, the typical going to school, not having those, you know, designer jeans and designer clothes because we didn't have the money, but we were saving. So that's carried into my adulthood, where I don't need to buy things, right? It's nice to have great stuff, but I'd rather save my money. And that's what's happened with multifamily, where I'm actually able to save my money and invest in the next deal. So for me, growing up, I had to go to college. My parents wanted me to go to college, and I enjoyed the college experience. I went to Fairfield University. I got a BS. You know, some of you might say that's a Bachelor of SHIT, but a Bachelor of Science in Finance. And I think it's important. I liked school. I liked to learn, right? And I did learn a lot of stuff, although most of the stuff that I didn't learn in college, I didn't really use it in the real world, right? One couple of classes that I did like accounting. I liked financial modeling. That stuff I brought over. But a lot of the other stuff, to me, it didn't really appeal to me. And it's funny because my kids are going to college right now, and I'm making them go to school because I want them to get a degree, and I want them to be exposed to the college life. But more importantly, the rigors of, you know what, you need to work when you go to college. You need to set up your time. You need to set your schedule. You need different priorities, the social interaction. That's what I think college is all about. It's not just about the education, right? It's about really jumping into life and becoming an adult. And that's what I enjoyed in college. When I got out back in 1992, a long time ago, you know, we were in the middle of a recession. I went to work for AIG. My neighbor got me a job in reinsurance accounting, and that was one of the most painful jobs I ever had in my life. It's like watching paint dry on the wall. That's how boring it was. Sitting in a cubicle, it just sucked. Honestly, if I was there for a year and I tried to get out of there and tried to go to different places, a couple of things that happened when I was there for the first World Trade Center bombing back in 1993. I'm walking out of my building in 99 John Street, and all of a sudden I see these fire ambulances and everything going on. And I'm like, what's going on? Find out that my mom is calling me. We didn't have cell phones back then. She couldn't get in touch with me. I was maybe 3 blocks from where that first Trade Center bombing went off. And then as I'm going home, I'm saying to myself, I need to get out of New York City. And as I saw what was going on, I wanted to get out of the rat race. I wanted to be able to control my life. At 23 years old, I knew right then and there that I did not want to have the corporate grind. So go about 6 months after that, I'm trying to buy my dad's restaurant. I'm trying to buy his partners out. His partners don't want to sell. So I say to my dad and my mom, let's go buy our own place. We ended up buying our own place in 1994, running it for 6 months. My mom bought the building. That's my affinity to real estate. My mom owned the building. So there was 3 apartments upstairs, and we own the restaurant business downstairs also. So I'm paying my mom rent, which is pretty cool, right? She's getting the rent, and we're working at the restaurant. So we worked at the restaurant for years and years and years. The first 10 to 15 years, from 1994 till about 2006, 2007, I mean, we made bank. I mean, it was great. It was the middle class dream, where you go to work, you work hard, you create a great product. There's a little less competition. Eating habits are a little bit different. And you're able to really provide. We had 3 families eating out of that restaurant. It was my brother, myself, and my parents. Out of a 70-seat little restaurant in New York, we were making really good money, but we were working extremely hard. I mean, minimum 60 hours a week. I've been worked an average of 50 hours a week my entire adult life. I've actually been making payroll since 1994. So you put that into context, I don't mind working hard, but what was I working hard for? I was working hard for a paycheck, for a job. I'd have to do it during the week. On Sunday, how much do we make? And continue, rinse and repeat. I was not creating wealth. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, I was on the employee ES side. I was self-employed. I had a job, but I didn't know any better because it worked for my dad. It worked for that generation. They worked really hard. They saved their money. My mom and my dad bought a couple of houses. They were quote unquote financially free by the time they retired. They had enough money to live. And I thought that was my plan, Josh. As I continue to go, 2008 arrives, and we're looking at a 2008 right now, the great pandemic for me. And I say to myself, what is going on? All of a sudden, we have Grubhub, we have Uber Eats, we have all these delivery services, we have Paneras of the world coming out. There's so much competition going on top of a great recession. So I looked around, Josh, and I said, I can't keep doing this. I need to find something else. And I was lucky that I had some money saved aside. And I had the willingness, I had enough pain to say to myself, let me look further elsewhere. I had previously, back in 2005, invested in a mobile home park. I lost that money, $172,000. I lost it because I took massive action. I had money laying on the side. And for everybody out there, money's not what makes you rich. This is what makes you rich, being prepared and knowing when to strike. I just had money sitting idle and I wanted to make it work for me, but I didn't have my due diligence. I didn't take my education because at Jake and Gino, we like to say education times action equals results. Not just action and not just education. You need to couple both of them. So in 2005, I lost that money. 2006, right before my dad passes away, I've got the shiny object syndrome. Another thing that we tell Jake and Gino, stay in your lane. I see this retail strip center up in Dutchess County, New York. Massive mistake for buying that for a lot of reasons. Just going to give you a couple quick reasons why. Wasn't educated, didn't know the commercial lending space, bad market, forget about the bad timing, overpaid, didn't do due diligence, wasn't educated. At that point, when I bought the property, I said to myself a year later, I need to get into multifamily. I need to get into something where I can do it, quote unquote, passively, but at the same time work the restaurant. Because my goal at the time was, I don't want to get out of the restaurant. I don't see myself living without the restaurant. There's no way. I've been doing this my entire life. My limiting belief is I need to do this. But if I can make a little bit of money here while I'm working the restaurant, hey, I've got multiple streams of revenue, right? 2008 comes, 2009 comes, I joined a couple of mentorship programs. And at that time, I was always saying to myself, I need to pay for my education. Now, what I would really notice, Josh, is I was actually investing in my education, because whatever I learned back in 2008 and 2009, I still know it and I've grown it. As you like to say, you either pay to play or you seek to serve. It's one of those two, my friend. If you're 24 years old, you don't have any money, you're out there seeking to serve. If you're 38 years old like me and you have money, you pay to play. And that really sparked my interest in real estate and multifamily. And soon after, I meet Jake, and the rest is history. In 2011, Jake is up in New York. He's like, Gino, I've got to get out of here. The taxes are crazy. I'm going down to Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm like, Jake, excuse me, where's Knoxville? I've heard of it. I don't even know. Where's Tennessee, right? New Yorkers don't know anything other than New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So he moves down there, and we start looking at deals. And everybody out there, it took us 18 months to find that first deal. But the reason why we bought that first deal is because I had enough motivation, I had enough pain to get out of the real estate business, a restaurant business, and actually start doing it. And the great thing about multifamily is you can do it part-time. I was doing this part-time in the beginning with Jake, because we had the economies of scale, we had the scalability, and we bought that first deal after 18 months. And then after 18 months, after 3 months, we got the second deal. So within 3 months of buying the first deal, we're at 60 units. Within 6 months after that, we bought a 136 unit property, which is a total of 200 units within a year. So the snowball effect is really working. But you can see, Josh, there's a couple of years in between there that I slacked, that I lagged, that I didn't have my goals. And the reason why it took me so long is because I didn't have a partner. I wasn't being held accountable. We can go take that education. Like I said, I wasn't taking that massive action until I met Jake. And now, Josh, fast forward till now, the last few years, we've been continuing to scale the business. We're at over, 1,600 units that we own and operate. The first 1,000 units, Jake, myself, and a partner bought without syndication. So we own the first 1,000 units ourselves by being able to refinance and roll over $10 million from the portfolio and continue to buy. One of those lifelong lessons where I still don't own a Lamborghini. I still don't own a Ferrari. I still don't own a boat. I don't need that. I don't want that. That's not part of my goals. That's not on my bucket list. I have 6 children. That's what's really important to me. Being able to provide for them, being able to pay for their college, being able to go away for a weekend. That's what is all important to me. And being able to scale up the portfolio is just adding on. And now, luckily, my kids were with us about 3 weeks ago when we did our last close. That's what's really, really cool for me, having that transformation of my life, going and showing them how to do it. And I think ultimately the last thing I'd like to say is, for me, the turning point came in 2015 when I went to life coaching school. I did it for personal development. I really wanted to develop myself as a person. I really wanted to know what my goals were. I really wanted to know what I wanted to get out of life. A person has a midlife crisis and goes out and buys a car, does something. I went out and got life coached. And that for me was transformational. Another place where I invested in myself. It wasn't a cost, it was an investment, because as entrepreneurs like to know, when you invest in something, you get a return. And I got a massive return on my life. And ironically enough, 6 months after I graduated IPEC, I left the restaurant and I went into real estate full time. And here we are. And I created Jake and Gino from all those experiences.
Boom. All right, Gino, there's so much in there to unpack, and I got a lot of really good questions for you. So one thing you had mentioned, like your parents, my parents also taught me to save, right? And that was the way to create wealth. Now, I believe that is part of the equation, right? I know people that make multiple 6 figures and they blow it, right? So it's about having the money work for you. But I believe the bigger part of the equation is also growing your income. Where did you start getting that mindset of like, look, hey, I can save so much, but if I increase my income, I'll be able to get there faster? Where did that come from?
I want everyone to write this down. Are you working hard for your money, or is your money working hard for you? 10 years ago, didn't know what the hell that meant. That is all powerful, because 30 years ago, working one job and being able to lever one stream of income is all you needed. Now that the internet's here and cheap labor, that's all out the window. Back in 2013, I had 3 streams of revenue. I had a little $25,000 personal note. I had my restaurant business, and I had a fourplex in New York. That's all I had. Now I've got over 25 streams of revenue. Doesn't happen overnight. It's the snowball effect. You add on, another one, and another one. And the question you asked is great, because I had that mindset of saving. Dave Ramsey's mindset. I like a lot of the principles he teaches. I think for our community, anyone listening to it, they need to take it to the next level. Dave Ramsey is great for beginning. I don't want anyone out there saving for an event. And that's what I was doing. I was saving for an event, right? I was saving for my kids' college. I want to save to buy assets, so those assets can provide for the event. I'm going to give you a perfect example. In 2013, we bought Courtyard Cottages, AKA the Little Crack Den. Who would have known that that one purchase is going to pay for all of my kids' college education from that one deal? And you know what? When they're done and they're out of college, I still own that asset. I'm still cash flowing every month. That's the power of buying assets that produce income. Now, if I had saved $60,000, the money that we had put into the deal, that's going to pay for one of my children's college education. Whereas owning that asset and continuing to cash flow from it is going to pay for all of them. So that was a mind shift that I had when I read, Garrett Gunderson's book, Killing Sacred Cows. It's all about the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. It's all about investing in yourself, and it's all about creating these businesses. And Josh, we don't learn that in school. That's why I created the Jake and Gino Youth Academy, because I want to teach children and I want to teach young adults and parents all about financial education, because people with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. Let me say that again. People with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. And I'm living proof. You're living proof that that's what it is. We're brought up with the middle class mindset. I think it's because we're being enslaved. We're being enslaved by corporate America. We're being enslaved by the government because we're being dependent upon them. Now, if you're financially intelligent and you become financially independent from all these entities out there, you take control of your life. The ultimate word, whether you're listening to Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, It's all about responsibility. Jim Rohn always talks about it. If you're responsible for your life and you take control of your life, you're going to have an amazing life because you're going to lead an empowering life. You're going to be able to choose. We chose this morning to get on this podcast. We didn't have to do it. We chose because we want to and we love what we're doing. If I had a 9-to-5 job where I hated it, I can't do this podcast. I can choose now. That's what being financially free and financially independent is all about. And the first step is to start by saving money, creating a financial freedom account, creating an emergency fund, creating a 3 to 6 month savings account. Do all of those things because you know what? If you get hit by a pandemic and you got 6 months of money in the bank, you're not going to freak out. You're not going to lose it because you've got money saved. If you've got money in your, what we like to call our financial freedom account, you save as much money as you can. I'm up to probably 30 or 40% of my earnings every month going into there, being able to reallocate just to buy investments. That's what you want to do. You want to save to buy assets. Don't worry about saving for retirement because my assets are going to pay for my retirement. When I'm 68 years old and I want to sell an apartment complex, there's my assets right there. There's my retirement right there. And ultimately, I'm not worried about retiring because I love what I do. As you get older and you get better, you're going to find stuff that you're going to like to do. That word retirement is only for people who have a 40-year time plan, who hate their job and go to a soul-sucking job. I love what I'm going to do. I may not do Jake and Gino full time when I'm 72, but I'm still going to be coaching. I'm still going to be buying deals. I'm still going to be on stage. I'm going to love to do that. So I'm going to continue to earn income and continue to help others. So long answer, but I'm really passionate about it because we're tricked nowadays. It's not just saving, but what are you saving for? You need to be intentional. You need to work on your goals and what you want to achieve through life.
Wow. So powerful. So many great mindset shifts in that one. All right. So back in 94, you start the restaurant. This is, obviously you see all your parents or your dad and mom have the restaurant. Now this is one where you're an owner. Give me some lessons you learned in that first entrepreneurial pursuit.
The restaurant business is hard work. I'm not going to lie to anybody. 60 hours a week. I smell like garlic. I'm sweating in the summer. I'm freezing in the winter. I'll give you a couple numbers. On average, we would do 500 pounds of chicken cutlets a week, 500 pounds of chicken breasts a week. Think about that. Every chicken breast is 3 to 4 ounces. I'm cleaning and cutting over 2,000 chicken breasts a week and then pounding them. Shrimps, 100 pounds of shrimps cleaning a week. 100 pounds. I'm not doing it by myself, but in the beginning, guess who's doing it? Have you ever cleaned and peeled garlic? I've done it. I smell like crap at the end of the day, but you know what? That's how I'm taught. Peeling roasted peppers, sitting there, roasting peppers and peeling them. Now, these are all jobs that I shouldn't have been doing, but that's what I was taught, right? I was taught that, you know what? You have to mind the store. And that's how I was growing up in this first entrepreneurial venture where you need to be there all the time, everywhere. There's no systems. It's just you, day in, day out. But you know what? At the end of the week, there's a nice little pot of money there. And then the next week you do it again without thinking about the future, without thinking about maybe opening up another restaurant because you have to be there all the time. There's no systems. That's what I learned in my entrepreneurial venture. Working hard is going to pay off ultimately. But as I saw in 2008, I continued to work hard, continued to do the same thing, and everything shifted. And I didn't shift with it until I started investing in real estate.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point there. If you look at the cash flow quadrant, right, you were an S, you were self-employed. You owned a job that owned you essentially. Mm-hmm. And where we want to be is the B or an I, business owner or an investor, right? So owning a system or owning assets. Talk to me a little bit more about that shift when you realize, look, I can work hard, combining that with working smart, and it's going to produce even more results.
So we can go through the countless Jake and Gino students. They've closed over 9,000 units right now to date. It's just starting and taking action and seeing proof of concept. When I bought that fourplex back in 2002, 2003, I had that. The property was cash flowing, and I saw that there wasn't that much work going into it in compared to what I had, but it wasn't something where I could live off of. I was used to making a certain income, and I couldn't grasp that. So there's a book called The 10% Entrepreneur out there. I forgot who wrote it, but what I like about it is we're taught to go big, burn the ships. You don't have to do that. I didn't do that. That first deal that Jake and I bought back in 2013, when we started running the property, it was producing about $1,500 a month cash flow for each of us. That was where I saw my first taste. And I'm like, wow, if I can buy the next one, I can make $2,500 a month with the two of them done, right? And that's what we ended up doing. And then from there, that's where the shift was. I'm like, okay, I'm working passively on this one, and I'm working full-time on my restaurant. I need to dedicate more time with the real estate. And for me, it was amazing. It was, 70 hours a week probably, because I was working, in the morning, getting up, homeschooling my kids before I went to the restaurant. Went to the restaurant at 10 o'clock, worked till 2, At 2:00, I sat down, had lunch from 2 to 2:30, 2 to 3. I'd work on real estate. And ironically enough, my mom would stop by and say, "Hey, Gino, you're always working. Why are you always working?" I'm like, "Mom, this right here is not work. Everything else is work. This is fun. This is my future." And when you hear people telling you you're working too hard, my friend, you're doing the right thing, right? And I still get it right now. People are like, "You're working all the time." I'm not working. I love doing what I'm doing right now. But you need to go through the grind. 3:00, dinner time comes, the dinner rush, that dopamine hit of, I did this work today. I got this accomplished. I send out 100 meals, rinse and repeat. Go home at 10:00, put the kids to bed, get back on real estate. And that's what I did for a couple of years, learning the systems, learning. I didn't have buy right, manage right, finance right. I didn't have the Jake and Gino community. It was just me and Jake on an island. That's one of the reasons why I created Jake and Gino, because I saw as I started buying these assets, it's all about creating relationships. It's all about creating a community. It's all about being held accountable, and what the coaching had done for me. So for me, it was awesome. I loved it. I love working through. I love pushing harder and learning how to start buying these assets.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's a lot of listeners that were in or are in a similar position to the one you mentioned there, right? Where they may have an asset or two producing some money. Their job is obviously where the majority of their income is still coming from. And like you said, it's hard when you first start out, right? There's a level of discipline and dedication. What advice would you give to someone that's in that position where they have to really keep putting in the work and realize that there's more out there to kind of get there further and go faster?
So, number one, get off of Instagram and get off of Facebook, because it doesn't matter if Josh Roosen is closing a 200-unit apartment complex. It doesn't really matter. You're not there to compare yourself with others, because your journey, your experiences, your cash, your willingness has nothing to do with what Josh is doing out there. And that's the problem with social media. Everyone's got this beautiful world going on. When you really rip it back, as our coach Bill Ham likes to say, everyone's winging it out there. Once you realize that, you'll be okay. Number two, commit and then figure it out. Josh loves this. I will rip out an email, I'll launch something, and he'll be like, "Well," I'm like, "You know what? We're gonna figure it out." And this is actually after being, having years of experience and knowing that the world's not gonna come to an end if I send an email that looks really bad, right? But I at least committed to it, and I'm learning from that mistake. I think number three, really, when it comes down to it, is what is your why? This is what life coaching helped me out to do. I want everyone on this call to think about what your goals are. I mean, you really want to leave your job. And that's why a lot of our students, in their late 30s, early 40s, or really young, right? Because when you get to be that midlife, you have that midlife crisis, you're like, there's got to be more in life than just going to a job, right? And that's what I said to myself. I said, what is my why? My why was my family, and my why was to become financially independent. And financial freedom to me was working when I wanted to, where I wanted to, with who I wanted to, which is really important, and why I was doing this. So for me, multifamily became very clear. I could own assets. I could scale up. I had the economies of scale. I had these amazing tax benefits. I had cash flow coming in. So for the listeners out there, if you're starting out, you have one or two assets, I would seriously consider looking into a community, and not saying it as self-serving, but there's so many amazing communities out there. That's why I created Jake and Gino. There's so many members out there who are looking to network, who are looking to raise capital, who are looking, more about not just going on a YouTube video, but actually having coaching and mentoring out there. And for me, as I was doing my first two deals, I had a mentor and I had a coach who was helping me along with the due diligence, with the things that I didn't know. And for me, that was a lifesaver, game changer. I would never change that for anything in the world.
Gino, I think you really hammer home a good point there. And if you look at your journey, you bought the mobile home park, lost 172 grand. You bought a strip center, wasn't the best deal. There's two ways to learn this: the school of hard knocks, and that was a very expensive lesson, or school of applied knowledge. And you can see the shift in your journey when you start seeking guidance from those that have the results you want and look to where it's led you now. So I think it's a very powerful and very well said.
And also, I think for a lot of us, my mom is still talking about losing that money from those last two deals. And as I've grown older, I look at it this way. Those are great learning lessons for me. Those are huge problems that I turned into massive opportunities. And I would have been able to refi and roll, like I said, those millions of dollars out of the portfolio. I would have never gotten into multifamily, because I would have been like, you know what? These deals are okay. They're not bad. I never would have had the impetus to say, I need to figure a niche out that I really like and that I can really excel at. So those problems turned into massive opportunities for me. And I think if we start looking at our problems in life, even right now with the great pandemic, Josh, you know, for the last 6 months, we've had the pedal to the metal. We've been really growing, and it's been a massive problem for us, but it's also brought us opportunities, whether it's virtual leasing, whether it's really stepping up our marketing game, whether it's really adding more value to the community, doing events during the pandemic. I mean, there's so many things that obviously there are really big problems out there. But when you look back, what have you done over the last 6 months? What steps have you taken to become better? I know you and myself, we've done a lot to continue to grow, to continue to learn how to educate ourselves, to continue to grow the Jake and Gino community, and to continue to really, actually, as far as, you know, being more charitable, giving back, all those opportunities coming from a problem. Years ago, I got crushed from those problems. Now that I look at them, there's got to be a silver lining in everything that happens. And if you can find the silver lining and expand upon it, you're going to become really successful in life.
That's such a great tip. And you mentioned education over and over again. And obviously it's something you're very passionate about. You know, let's talk about the Jake and Gino community, the podcast, the book. Kind of tell me which one of those came first and then which one came next and how they all came about.
Josh, that's a great question. So for me, I am pretty much an introvert. I'm not you, Josh. You know, if I'm in a room of 100 people, I'll be in the back of the room, right? I will have definitely powerful conversations. I'm a person who likes to ask questions and gets to know people. So the podcast for me in the beginning was a little scary. Wasn't really a fan of the camera. But what that allowed me to do was basically have a mastermind every week with somebody different. You know, and obviously having one with Jake every week was awesome. But speaking to Ken McElroy, to Robert Kiyosaki, to T. Harv Eker, to all these mentors that I looked up to, and to be able to spend an hour on a show asking them questions about their journey, learning from them, being inspired, getting off that podcast and being fired up for the rest of the day. That was game over for me. I love the podcast. I love doing those shows. The book came in 2016 when Jake is like, you know Jake, with these great ideas. He's like my wife. It's amazing. They have these great ideas. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, you know, but that's the power of partnerships. He's always pushing me and I'm always pushing him. So we wrote the book back in 2016, literally wrote it. We're neither one of us is writers, right? Just like Robert Kiyosaki says, you're not a best-selling writer, you're a best-selling author, where you're selling the book. You're not writing the book, right? So it took us a year to write it. But what was amazing about it, everybody, you're learning something, then you do it, and then you start teaching it. So that book allowed me to do so much research into multifamily, into what cap rates are. And actually, once you start learning it and teaching it, you become a much better teacher and you become a much better investor. So the book was second. We launched the book back in 2016. We loved the way it came out. And then we wrote a second book, The Honeybee, back in 2019, back last year, which was a parallel story. So for us, it was really first the podcast, then the book. And then we started creating, online courses. We started creating on a platform called Kajabi. We created the Wheelbarrow Profits Academy, and I loved it. And on the beginning, it was just training videos. I had no coaching, no fulfillment. I was once again the IMA, the mom and pop. I was by myself trying to sell my own course, but it was a great learning experience for me because I knew that a lot of students, like I said, over 9,000 apartment units right now, and I know that number is higher than that, but that's what we have documented, have gone through the academy and they're just continuing to purchase, a multifamily. So I started out with that back in 2016. That's grown now to where we have a fulfillment of accountability coaches, deal expert coaches. We have a weekly lesson on Monday. We have what we call our money mixers. We're 2 or 3 a year where we go out and we network. We have our on-site intensive boot camps with students only. And the reason why I created all these different elements, I'll give you an example. The coaching, an accountability coach, our students get on every 2 to 3 weeks with these coaches because, like I said, you'll do more for yourself. You'll do more for somebody else than you will for yourself. So when you have a call scheduled with a coach, guess what? You're going to get through that work. And then the deal expert coach is there to guide you through, whether it's putting in offers, whether it's looking at, looking at underwriting, whether it's selecting a market, all those steps you need to take in the beginning that you may be fearful of. Why do it by yourself? You've got experts who have done it. Let them guide you. And oh, by the way, when you have a deal in the contract, who do you call? You don't call Ghostbusters. You call expert coach and say, how do I get this done? That's the power. That one phone call can save you, as it did on Chad King. Bill Ham told us, our coach. He had a half an hour phone call with Bill Ham. Bill Ham said, try this. He tried it on his deal. He saved $500,000. Hello, that one little tip saved him $500,000 off the purchase price. Another one, same student, Bill Ham and Chad King. Chad didn't know what seasoning was in the very beginning. Bill Ham told him that. He actually pulled out of the deal and saved him a ton of money by that one tip. You can't know it all. That's what coaches are there for. They're there to lead you and to guide you through that, right? The weekly lessons are very powerful. Every week, Jake and I do a weekly lesson about what's going on in the market and the economy. We want to have those touch points. Our on-site intensives, this is one thing, Josh, that I did wrong in the beginning when I started my journey. I don't want to see the word afraid, intimidated. I never went to these weekend events, and I also had the excuse that I worked every weekend at the restaurant. I couldn't take a weekend off to go. That was my biggest regret, not going to any of these on-sites that my coaches and my trainers had until I went to IPEC back in 2015, where 3 weekends in 2015, I took off Friday, Saturday, Sunday from the restaurant. I still hear my mom complaining about it, but those weekends were revolutionary for me. You know why? They tested me. They made me grow as a person. I was actually aligned with other like-minded people. I was learning from trainers. I was inspired. I got the blueprint of what I needed, and I loved it, and I enjoyed it. And that motivation carried over into the next session and then into the next session. So those on-site intensive for us are really, really important, whether we're doing a buy right, a manage right, or a finance right on-site intensive. Our coaches and our entire team's going to be there. And more importantly, the students are there. So if Josh is there and he's from Akron, Ohio, and we have somebody from California, the person in California may have a ton of money, but Josh may have some deals in Akron, and guess what? They may be able to partner there, or they may be able to, to raise capital together, or whatever that may be. Because when you start out multifamily, like I did, you only think there's one way to do it, right? You only think there's buying deals by myself. Everyone has that limiting belief of, I don't have enough cash. But you know what? Syndication is a great tool to get around not having enough cash. And owner financing is another great tool to get around that. I didn't learn this stuff until I immersed myself in Jake and Gino, and we saw other students doing it, and we were doing it ourselves. So being able to teach that and guide that is really powerful in the Jake and Gino community.
Wow. All right. I got some really tough questions here for you. So, Gino, you know what? I know what I think, right? When most people are like, all right, they're coaching, listen, you're just creating more competition, some people would say. What do you say to that?
It's really ironic, Josh. How many restaurants did I own?
1.
How many apartment units do we have?
1,666.
And the first 1,000, all just me, Jake, and my partner, right? I look at it this way. I had the scarcity mindset when I had one restaurant, and my father embedded that into me. Every time a restaurant opened up, he's like, they're taking more customers from us. Instead of thinking, how can I get better? How can I learn from that person and get better? Or maybe, you know what? Maybe we can partner up and open up restaurants next to each other, like Restaurant Row, where everyone comes, because not everyone can eat Italian food one day and then have, sushi the next day. You want to be able to change, right? And then all of a sudden, looking at it from the competition perspective, start branding your company, start branding your business, start adding more, right? So for me, there's no competition. I truly believe in what Garrett Gunderson's book, once again, Killing Sacred Cows, really talks about, having an abundance mindset where you have 1,600 apartment units versus a scarcity mindset of having one restaurant. There's so many things that I benefit from when I teach people. First of all, I get more credibility. Number 2, I learn this craft even much better. Number 3, we have students we've partnered with on deals. So we're getting deal flow from students, and students are actually learning and they're partnering with us. Number 4, we've been able to raise over $10 million from our students to be able to invest in syndication. So you can see how the power of multifamily really works, because it's a team sport. I mean, there's so many deals out there and there's so much money out there. Being able to put all those together and teach those people is great. And I mean, honestly, this may sound a little cliche-ish, but it's really awesome when I get an inbox and I get a student saying, hey, I left my job. Over 30 students have left their jobs with Jake and Gino. That little dopamine hit for me is really awesome. It's really amazing being able to change people's lives, because I know how transformational it was for me to be able to quit my job, quit my restaurant, and do this full time, do something that I love to do. Like Garrett says, going to your sole purpose and helping people do that. If I've got to lose a deal or two a year, so be it. I don't really care. Helping those people out is ultimately what I'm doing. And I know it's karma. It's going to come back to us. It's going to come back to us in so many different ways. And it has. So for me, creating competition, I may be, but someone who's that motivated to start doing it is going to figure it out on their own anyway, one way or another. After all the hard work, it may take them 5 more years. It may take them a lot more money losing, right? They're going to lose a lot more money doing it on their own. But if we can corral them, we can help them out, creating a community of like-minded people. And for me, it's a lot of fun to see that growth. I'm growing with them. And Josh, the ironic thing is I'm learning from their experiences also. We're learning from theirs. We may get tipped off about a market. Hey, I like this market in Georgia. Never even thought about going. Let's go see it. So you as the coach is empowering other people, but you're also learning from them as well.
Listen, I love that. All right, Gino, a couple more questions for you. So if you could do it all over again, is there anything you would change and why?
Wow. So this is a tough question because I would focus on becoming financially free ASAP. If there's any young people out there, focus on that. House hack, buy a duplex, buy a triplex, cut your expenses down. Don't worry about your living. Try to get that financial freedom number and then find out what you want to do. Because once your bills are paid, you can have a great life. You can focus on what you really want to truly do. Staying out of debt was also a great thing for me. I never really had any debt. So I was never going to work at the restaurant to pay off my bills, right? All I had was really a mortgage and that's it. Never had car debt, never had credit card debt, never had personal debt. Staying out of there and, becoming financially free as quickly as possible. Because then once you figure that out, wow. And then, like I said, that abundance and scarcity mindset is really huge. Not always looking at it as a zero-sum game, as most politicians do. Well, if I have this and I give this away, I don't have that. That's not how multifamily works. Multifamily is a pie. It's finite. Everyone is eating from that table, whether you're raising capital, whether you're putting the deal together, whether you're underwriting it, whether you're doing the day-to-day operations, whatever that looks like, there's a seat at the table for so many people. And I didn't realize that early on in my journey.
Wow, I absolutely love that. All right, last question for you. What do you think the most pivotal moment in your journey was, or most important, right? Most transformational?
So for me, I mean, there's a couple points, but obviously the first one was marrying my wife. Amazing person. She probably saved my soul. I could probably say that. She's a much better person than I am. Hopefully she doesn't hear this recording. That's buried at the very end, so she won't hear it, but she's an amazing person. And if anybody knows her, I take my cue from her. Never heard an excuse from her ever. Never. I mean, obviously she says she's tired. She has 6 kids. She homeschools 6 kids. She cooks, cleans 4 loads of laundry a day. Never makes an excuse that, you know what, I am not doing it today. And I take my cue from that. I don't make any excuses because I can't, because I have somebody in my life who's doing that, who's holding me accountable. And I don't want to let her down. And obviously, she's probably one of my biggest role models. I think the second thing was her pushing me to go to life coaching school and really to figure out why I was doing what I was doing. I challenge everyone on the call listening, go to get some personal development, figure out about yourself, figure out what you want, become clear with your goals, focus on what you want. Don't be Gino and focus on what you don't want. I didn't want to be at the restaurant. That's not the question. What did I want? Until I realized what I wanted, that's when things started to click for me, because that's when you start doing your laser focus on what you really want. So I think those two points in my life were really transformational for me.
Man, that's huge. All right, Gino. So look, as a listener, I realize I need personal development. I need coaching and I want to take things to the next level. Where can I find out more about joining the Jake and Gino community?
Josh, just go to jakeandgino.com. Apply to work with the team. We want to have members and people who are aligned with our core values. We have people first, extreme ownership, make it happen, right? Those are our core values. And I think it's really important that we have our community uphold those core values. So we're not just signing anybody up. We want people who are serious about multifamily because it's commitment. And I'll tell you right now, I'm living proof. If you make that commitment in life, you're going to have an amazing life, but you need to make that commitment. And when you get on the phone with Josh or with our senior business advisors, you're going to realize, is this for me or is it for me? We're not here to waste anybody's time. We're here to empower people and to teach people how to become multifamily entrepreneurs. That's what my goal is to create as many multifamily entrepreneurs as we can, because people with financial intelligence, we can change the world for the better.
Gino, I love that. And I got to add to that, guys. So listen, I want you to know this, right? Our process on the back end to figure out if it's a good fit is more of a discovery call. Mm-hmm. We want a win-win situation. What Gino judges us on in our company is the success of our students. And we want students that are going to raise the collective average. Mm-hmm. And our promise to you is no matter what, we're going to leave you in a better position, whether working together is a good fit or not. So I want to just make that commitment out there.
Love that. And Josh, one more thing. Anybody emails me, gino@jakeandgino.com. I'll give them a PDF copy of the Honeybee. Just another resource that you can start utilizing wherever you are in your journey. If you're in a business that you want to scale your business, or if you want to get into multifamily, or if you're in single family homes and you say, how do I get out of this? Just reach out to me, gino@jakeandgino.com, and I'll shoot you over a PDF copy of the Honeybee.
Love it. Well, listen, Gino, I want to thank you for peeling back the curtain and sharing your amazing story here. I know I certainly learned a lot, and it really shines through who you are and kind of the man behind the podcast, we'll say. So thank you again. And guys, if you want to be the next Movers and Shakers guest, please email me, josh@jakeandgino.com. Listen, if you like the show, leave us a review. And until next time, let's make it a Movers and Shakers week. See you, everybody.
Thanks, Josh. Take care, everybody.